It is the one that many would say there is no way to handicap, but darn it, we're going to do it anyway. That is, of course, the Michigan State-Washington game. Washington, if you remember last year, this was sort of their coming out party. They were coming off a really bad year. They had fired Jimmy Lake. They bring in Kalen DeBoer. They have Michael Penix transfer, and nobody really knows what to expect. Michigan State goes out there. They're coming off an 11-win season, and Washington smacks them around and kind of makes a name on the national scene. Well, this is the return game, 5 p.m. Eastern in East Lansing. Washington, a 16.5 point favorite. The over-under set at 57.5. So let's get into it. And obviously, look, I've already spent like 30 seconds talking about this game, and I sort of buried the lead, which is we don't know what to expect because of the Mel Tucker situation. And I've talked enough about Mel Tucker on the Aaron Torres pod. I don't need to go through what happened and how it happened and what it means on this show. By now, you already know. But I do think it's an interesting conversation to have about what it means for Michigan State on the field on Saturday. Now, it is worth noting, and I think this is important. A guy that's taken over for Mel Tucker. He is like a beloved icon in that program, a guy named Harlan Beverly, okay? For people who don't know the backstory there, guy basically bleeds green and white, which, by the way, maybe see a doctor for that. Neither here nor there, but guy basically bleeds green and white. He came as part of Mark D'Antonio's original staff back in 2007. And since 2007, he has been at Michigan State every year except for two, left for 2 years to go coach at Florida State. But from 2007 to 2023, that's 16 years. He's been there for 14 out of 16 years. Everybody likes him. Everybody loves him. The players love him. And he was asked about it. And I know there's only, one way to answer the question, but I think the players are going to rally around him. Now, they better, because they're playing a really, really good Washington team. And for Washington, we all know the deal. We all know about the hype, but it is worth reiterating. That passing attack is insane. I mean, even going back to last year, like when we think about great passing attacks in college football, we think Caleb Williams, USC. We think Tennessee, which last year had Hendon Hooker. It was Washington that had the number one pass offense in all of college football a year ago. And they currently, through 2 games, have the number one pass offense as well. Michael Penix, guy has been unreal. Game 1 against Boise, 450 yards passing, 5 touchdowns. Last week, he regressed. The poor guy wasn't very good, only 409 yards passing and 3 touchdowns. But again, Washington is leading college football in passing. Michael Penix is playing like a Heisman Trophy winner. And obviously, the defense has been very good as well. Although it is worth noting, like so many teams on this list, Washington really hasn't played very good competition. Boise State and Tulsa the last 2 weeks for Washington State, 56-19 against Boise, 43-10 against Tulsa a week ago. As far as Michigan State, it's kind of exactly what I just said. They have not played the best competition, but to their credit, they looked good in those 2 games. Played Central Michigan, beat the Chippewas 31-7, and then beat Richmond 45-14 last week. And I know what people say, well, it's Central Michigan. It's Richmond. And what I will say is, if that's how you want to attack this game, I totally get it. Michigan State was one of the most disappointing teams in college football last year. You need to see more before you get impressed, especially with an interim head coach with the Spartans. I think that's especially true after some of the stuff we saw in week 2. Remember, we got excited about Alabama against Middle Tennessee. Well, different story against Texas, same with A&M against Miami. So I get the whole conversation. I do think there are some positives that have come out of those games, though. First of all, 2 dominant wins. And you can go back to last year for Michigan State. Because Michigan State, even though they started 2-0 last year, it was a very sloppy 2-0 coming into the Washington game a year ago. 35-13 against Western Michigan, but it was close into the 4th quarter in that game. So Michigan State has looked very good, and I do think there are some positives, even though, again, it's early and you don't want to get too excited. First off, Noah Kim, the quarterback, has played very well. And this is interesting because if you remember back to the spring, Peyton Thorne, who had been a 2-year starter at Michigan State, elected to transfer. And when he did, there was a lot of conversation about what does this mean about the program? And the program's falling apart. But there are also whispers inside the program that maybe Peyton Thorne, who's now the starting quarterback at Auburn, he had maybe just flat out been beat out by Noah Kim. Well, through 2 games, Noah Kim has been very good. 571 yards passing, 5 touchdowns, no interceptions, 68% completion percentage. And granted, again, the competition has not been great. Also think it's a positive. A balanced attack for Michigan State. Nathan Carter, a UConn transfer. You knew I was going to sneak a UConn reference into here, but 224 yards rushing. He is the leading rusher in the Big Ten through 2 games. And then I think most importantly, this defense, which was so bad last year, number 5 in the country in total defense, number 5 in the country in pass defense. Now, it's a lot different going against Richmond and Central Michigan as opposed to Washington. And so I know a lot of you are probably just like totally just, I'm staying away from this. Torres is, I actually have a pick for this game, and I like Michigan State plus the points. First off, I know the Washington pass attack is explosive. I just think it's really hard to fly across country on the road in front of 70, 80,000 screaming fans and win by 3 scores. Now, they can do it. They beat some teams up pretty bad last year, especially late in the year. But Michigan State, I think, has improved on defense, and I think they can run the ball effectively enough to go ahead and keep Michael Penix and that offense off the field. The other thing, and I talked about it a minute ago, I do think there is something to this team is going to play hard for Harland Beverly. Now, does that mean they are going to win the game? Does it mean they're going to win 35-0? That's not what I'm saying. But those players love that guy. Those players respect that guy. Those guys appreciate that guy. And I think they're going to play hard for him. So my official pick, my official best bet in this game, I'm going to take Michigan State plus the point, 16.5 at home. I will take a Washington win and a Michigan State cover.